Hi guys, today I'm going to introduce you to the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons 5e is a tabletop role-playing game. And what does role-playing game exactly mean? Okay, so first, let's look at this little photo here. This is what a typical D&D game should look like. There's the DM sitting behind the DM screen, which conceals most of the notes that the DM is taking, and DM stands for Dungeon Master. He basically controls the game, he's like I said, the master, and he constructs the story as well as playing all of the monsters, the villains, of course, all the NPCs. NPC is non-player character. All the other players, though, they only control one character, but that's fine. Everyone is still happy. So they could be someone like a soldier, or it could be a fighter, anything like that. And the most basic classes are cleric, fighter, wizard, and of course rogue. For others though, like for races, there's a bunch though, a lot of homebrews as well. So in this game, it's basically storytelling, but using dice to determine the results. You can't say like, in this moment, I want to climb that mountain, and the DM will allow you to do it most likely, and that's the most likely scenario, and you have to roll a die to determine if you can climb the top of Mount Everest or something, some mountain which are very hard to climb. You would have to make a roll with your fellow D20. Okay, so in Dungeons and Dragons, there are 6 kind of dice, and single die. Okay, so dice, singular die. Okay, so that's the 20-sided die, and then there's a bunch as well. There's the 12, 10, and 6. Of course, there is a 4 as well, and that kind of looks like a pyramid, which is pretty cool. One of my favorite dice. All of those. But the most used is the D20, and you use D20 to determine results of combat, and you use that to determine a lot of other things as well. You can see here that sometimes people use miniatures on maps as well, so you don't really need that for your first game of D&D. That is to have visualize the whole thing. If you're not really familiar to D&D, you might want to play that, since most people think D&D is some game like Monopoly, but it isn't. Monopoly only uses 1 dice, and that is a D6. And of course, Monopoly only limits you into doing some things, but Dungeons and Dragons will allow you to do whatever you want. Climb Mount Everest in the game, if there is a Mount Everest in the world that your DM created, or you could just go drink 10 pounds of beer, or you could be anyone you like. You could be like boss of the world, you could be a king, or anything. Yeah, something like that. And anyway. And here's what a normal game of D&D would look like.
The dragon falls from the sky, crashing into the volcano. Wait! He's not dead. He crawls out, spreads his wings, and prepares to attack.
Wait. Doesn't he say something first? Maybe in the voice of a beloved celebrity?
Fine. You'd think, after all these years, I'd know not to fly over volcanoes. I'm a freaking idiot.
Big Dragons, Christopher Walken. That's perfect.
All right, Amy, it's your turn. We need one more hit. Finish him off.
Here we go. 15?
It's a hit. The dragon collapses to the ground.
No, wait. And says...
Mother, is that you? Your little boy is coming home.
Oh, I don't know about you guys, but I've been through the emotional ringer tonight.
Illustrate the dice rolling with this little thing on Google. You just search for roll a die or roll dice, and then you can roll any dice you want here. So I'm just gonna roll a D20 to show you how this works. But in real life, you actually roll a real dice, since this is something predictable, and it's always low or it's always high, so not really perfect. And this is the character sheet, and it kind of describes everything your character is, how strong he is, how fast he is, and how strong he is. Alright, and his profession, his race, his class, everything in between as well. What skills is he proficient in? Okay, so let me paint a picture. So you and your team in the game are trying to find the big bad guy, since one of the big bad guys have your teammates, but you don't know where the big bad guy is. So you know that the big bad guy usually drinks in this bar, so you guys are going to that bar and ask around for information about the big bad guy. Then you're going in, and then one of your wizard, which is this folk right here, I'm a wizard and I use a D6 for my hit die, and you go closer to one associate of the big bad guy, and maybe you will try to persuade him, maybe you will try to intimidate him, or try to play good cop, bad cop. It's your choice. You can do that in DnD as well. But I have a bonus in persuasion, in the art of persuasion, so I'm just going to use that. And this is called a ability check, and ability checks are one of the most important things in D&D. But how to make an ability check, though? Yeah, that is the question. Okay, so making ability checks is actually quite easy. You just use your, sorry, I'm just going to clean that for a moment. Use your d20 and roll it, plus your proficiency modifier if you're proficient in the ability that you're using. Since I am proficient in the art of persuasion, I'm just going to add my proficiency bonus. As well as that, I'm going to add my, guess what? Yes, my ability modifier, and in this case it's charisma. Since, persuading someone, it kind of counts as a charisma check. Ability modifier. So I'm just gonna use mod instead of modifier. It's basically the same thing. Okay, but that have to go against the DC of some task. Since this guy is pretty tough and he is a little hard to persuade, he is cold-hearted, is a cold-hearted beast. So the DC of this should be about 15, and this is a level 1 wizard, which for a level wizard, this should be pretty hard. Okay, so I'm just gonna roll a die and add 3, since that is my charisma modifier and proficiency modifier together. It's a 3, so I'll add all of those numbers together to go against the DC of this thing, which is 15. Okay, 18 plus 3, you guessed it, it's 21, and that is, well, a lot higher than 15. If the DC of, the roll that you got is higher than 15, or at least equal to 15, that means that you passed it. So, there you go. You passed the DC, and this time you could say, the DM will describe this situation as, you go and persuade him, and then you succeed. That's pretty boring, You could try to improvise a little bit, and the player might actually be describing the situation this time, because he has succeeded. So I go over to the associate of the big bad guy, and then I tell him, please, one of my family is in danger. You gotta help me. I'm telling the truth. Please, I'm so scared. You seem like a nice guy. Please help me. Or something like that, and the DM will play as the NPC for a little bit, and I said, okay, I'll help you. On one condition. You do not tell the big bad guy that I helped you. Or something like that. So that is a successful ability check. But ability checks don't really only include, going against someone's DC. But of course, that's all there is to it. Except for sometimes if you're going against some guards and going against some tough terrain, you gotta make an ability check to see if you actually can sneak past the guard or just climb up the really hard terrain. So let's just say that you're going to the base of the big bad guy, but there are some highly trained guards around the castle that where the big bad guy lives, and you gotta sneak past a guard, who is guarding the big bad guy. So you gotta go past him. But how do you do that exactly? So because that this should be a really hard task, since the guard is highly trained and one of the most closest guards to the big bad guy. So the DC of this should be about 20, something like that. And I'm just gonna make a roll. using my d20 and add. Okay, I have proficiency in the art of sneaking past people, and I would add my proficiency modifier and my dexterity modifier, so that's a +5. So let's just see if we can make a lucky roll or not. I already have one lucky roll, so I don't expect me to get another, but I sure do hope that I get one, but there we go, it's a 5. So that means if I had 5, that's 10. 10, that's like half of 20, so that means the DM will describe the situation. You try to sneak past a guard, but you snap a twig under your feet, your smelly feet, and then the guard notices you and tries to kill you. The end of story. So that is how you make an ability check, but you know, other than making an ability check, you have to do some other things in D&D as well, especially combat. Do you go into combat a lot? You have to fight villains, monsters, and the normal folk as well if you are a bad guy or something like that. Okay, so see here, this is your alignment. And this alignment could be neutral good, chaotic evil, anything like that. And if you're chaotic evil or something, that means you're a bad guy. You can play a bad guy in this game as well, but most people don't choose to. So that is how you make an ability check. But now we're going to go into combat, and we're going to study how to make an attack roll. So in D&D, there are 2 ways of combat. One is casting a spell, and the other is just using a weapon in real life. And in D&D, there are 2 kinds of weapons. One is like a short-range weapon. Well, no, it's not a short-range weapon. More like a hand-to-hand combat kind of weapon. Maybe your fist that counts as a melee weapon, and maybe axes, daggers, short swords, long swords, maces, great axes, something like that. But for ranged weapons, it's more like a crossbow. And if we're going to the modern world, it's a gun. Okay, something like that. So we're just gonna attack the guard, and the guard is highly trained, so he'll have an AC of 15 and a HP of 30. These 2 should not be too hard to understand. And AC is like a DC, which is a difficulty class, but this is like for a human, and if you surpass this AC, that means you'll be able to hit him. And the HP stands for hit points. If you're a gamer, well, you must know that HP stands for health points, and it's basically the same thing. Well, anyway, this is how much life he has and how much force or damage he will be able to withstand until he, well, is injured badly or dead. Okay, so down to how to make an attack roll. So D20, add your proficiency bonus if you're proficient with the weapon. And, of course, your strength modifier or dexterity modifier. So for melee weapons, you would add your strength modifier, and for some other weapons, like ranged weapons, you would add your dexterity modifier. So there we go, that's how you make an attack roll. So we're just going to use our great axe to make an attack roll against this person right here to see if we can do it or not. There you go. It's a 6. Yay! Nope, not really a yay. So it's a 4th, and it means it's a 10, and 10 does not surpass or at least be equal to the AC of the enemy, which is 15. That means you are not able to hit the enemy, and that finally means that, well, you have failed. So the DM might describe this situation as you hurl a great axe to the enemy with all your might and try to smite the enemy, but you fail, and he kind of dodged a bit, and the axe kind of missed. So yeah, that's about it. And we're just going to skip over the part where the guard attacks too, and now we're going to talk about how to use the light crossbow. And the light crossbow is a ranged weapon, so that means maybe you're going to run a little bit away from the guard and then try to shoot him from afar. So this means that you'll have a +4 attack bonus. This is because I will use my dexterity modifier for ranged weapons, and of course add my proficiency modifier since I am proficient with the light crossbow as well. This is not normal for wizards, but this wizard is special in some way though. There you go. +5. Please be at 20. Okay, it's a 9, so that means it will be a 14, and 14 still, it does not hit the enemy since it does not surpass or at least be equal to the AC of the enemy, which is 15. And the DM might describe your situation as you try to hit the enemy with your light crossbow, but you fail. Okay, so let me explain a little bit here. So if you roll a d20 and you get a 20 on the roll, that means you've had a critical hit, and that means that you'll automatically hit your enemy, and you have to double your damage. Let's just assume for a moment that we've actually surpassed and hit the enemy because our roll plus every appropriate modifier is higher than the enemy AC. So that means we would have to roll a damage die. For light crossbow, it is a 8. A 7. But still, in this place, you have to add your dexterity modifier and appropriate modifier. Since we're using a ranged weapon, we have to add our dexterity modifier, which is a 3, and together it will be a 10. And the enemy will take 10 damage points. 10 damage. And if you got a 20 on the roll, that's a critical hit. That means you have to double your damage die. So in this case, it will be like rolling 2 damage dice, and together it should be about 11. But then you do not double your ability modifier, which kind of sucks, but yeah, those are the rules. And if you hit 20 on the d20, that means now the enemy will get a 11. Yes, 14 damage. Bulldoging damage or slashing damage? I don't really know for these ranged weapons. Okay, so that's about how you make an attack roll. But now we're just gonna move on a little bit and talk about spells, and most likely 2 kinds of spells. The spells, they range from level 0 to level 9, but humans, or actually characters in the game, they range from level 1 to level 20. And why? Why is that? Okay, that sounds a bit strange, you might ask, because there is level 0 spells, but there are only level 1 characters. Level 0 spells are cantrips. They're called cantrips, and you can cast them, tens of thousands of times a day if you really want to. But for level 1 spells to level 9 spells, some you can cast if you do not have a spell slot, but the others you can only cast a limited amount of time because you only have enough energy to cast those. So now we're going to talk about 2 spells, one a fireball and another fireball. What's the difference between these 2? To know that, we have to first know what is a spell save DC and what is a spell attack bonus. So how do you calculate your spell save DC? It's basically 8 plus your proficiency bonus and your ability modifier. So for wizards, it's intelligence. And for other charming people, for sorcerers, I think it's charisma. Okay, I think it's charisma. Is it? Oh, yes, it is charisma. And then for the clerics, they have to add their, wisdom modifier. So together, that is your spell save DC, and your spell attack bonus is basically without the 8. Okay, so we're just gonna first use the spell Firebolt for this occasion. And my spell attack bonus is a +6, and this is basically like a ranged attack, except for this time you have to add your proficiency bonus whether you're proficient in using spells or not, because, yes you are, you most likely are, and you add your intelligence bonus for a wizard always for this spell attack. And this is a ranged attack, you make it just like a ranged attack. So, just roll that die right there. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. And it is a 14, and 14 plus 6, that should be about 20. And this doesn't count as a critical hit since you just add up and there's a 20. That doesn't count. You have to roll a 20 on the die though. So that means you do hit your enemy, and this time we're just going to roll for the damage. And for Fireball, it uses a D10, and this D10, there you go, it's a 7. But if you do not add any of your appropriate modifiers, except for when you roll a nat 20, and then you might have to add another d10 to the hit point damage rolls, but you never add any ability modifiers except for when a racial trait or something specifically asks you to. So there you go, it's a 7, and now the person gets 7 hit points of damage. That means that he is left with, 23. Oops, fucking up. 23 hit points of damage. So yay for that. Okay. Now we're just gonna use another spell, and this is Fireball. Fireball is a 3rd level spell, and you can only use this like a few times a day. Or you can use them a lot of times a day, depends on which level you're on. So Fireball, it kind of automatically hits the enemy, and the enemy has to make a saving throw to know that he dodged it or not. But even though if he dodged it, he will still get half the damage. So he will make a dexterity saving throw. This is saving throws against your spell save DC. In this case, it's a 14. And let's just say that the dexterity modifier of our enemy is a +2, and our proficiency modifier is a +2 as well, and he is proficient in the art of making saving throws of dexterity. So that means that he will be able to add a +4 on his roll. Let's see if he can dodge it. Then it's 19. Wow, that's a really high number. And so adding that with, of course, the 4, that means you'll get a 23. And if you get a 23, that kind of exceeds the spell save DC of the wizard, which is a 14. That means you will only receive half the damage. And in this case, the damage is, okay, so 4d6. So together it's an 11, and subtract that from the current HP of our man here, that will leave him with a total of 12 hit points. Yeah, but this doesn't really work this way, So let's talk about how and when players die. So when players die, will basically mean their hit points has dropped to 0 or minus something. Let's just say in this case, for our class's sake, that the HP maximum of this guy is a 30, and if he gets so much damage that you'll get minus 30 hit points or more, this will mean that you'll be automatically dead. But if he only gets like minus 29 hit points of damage, this will mean that he will be unconscious and has to make a death save. So what are death saves though? You can see here that this is a death save, and you basically roll a bunch of d20s. You don't add any appropriate modifiers in this case. And if it's a 10 or higher, it's a success. If it's a 9 or lower, it's a failure. If it's a 20, d20, if it's 20 on your roll of a d20, this will mean that he will be automatically revived with 1 hit point. And if it's a failure, this will mean, if it's a 1, it will mean that will count as 2 failures. So let's roll a die and see what will happen. The first is a failure, the second is a success, the third one is a failure, and the fourth one is a success. It all depends on the last roll. And now he is revived, since you have to actually, draw here for a moment. And yes, you got 3 successes, and you got 2 failures. So there you go. That means that our little guard here is revived. Okay, but he didn't actually die. We're just saying this because of the class's sake. So there you go. This is how you play DnD, and these are the basic rules. To know more about the rules and about how to fill in your character sheet, since this is one of the most important pieces of paper in DnD, you would have to watch my other video of how to fill in your character sheet and know about alignments, experience points, initiatives, armor classes, and a whole bunch of those stuff. So this is about it, and see you next time.